Scale, exit, repeat. Launching a successful Kickstarter. That's what today. And it's interesting because this show is taking sort of place during a live launch. This is something that we talk about usually in history books, but instead of a history book, we're actually doing this live. This is actually a live launch. We launched 2 days ago, and we're doing it right and we're doing it wrong. We're making all the mistakes and we're doing all the right things. And so today we're going to try to unpack that, what it takes to do a successful Kickstarter. Yes, Mimi, I think it'd be a good idea to launch the Kickstarter campaign at the top there. I think that's a good idea. I'm just setting up the studio here where we do some filming as well during the show. This is actually going to be an article that will be written and it will be posted on startup.club. We are looking for contributors who can write articles on startup.club. But we're going to talk today about how to launch a successful Kickstarter and what it takes to make a successful Kickstarter. And I'm going to interview Michele Van Tilborg, the CEO of Pod.com, who launched one 2.5 days ago, I guess 2 days ago or 3 days ago.
That's right, about 2.5 days, Colin.
So we're gonna hit it, and this isn't some bullshit seminar where you're gonna sit here and learn about what theoretically could happen in a Kickstarter. This is live. We are doing this live, and we're gonna walk you through that. Michele, can you give us a high level? What the heck did you just launch 3 days ago?
All right. I'm going to start with my little story, Colin. I know we like to all frame our experiences and stories here on Clubhouse. So I'm going to back up a little bit. All right. As a multiple pet species and a number of pets, I'm not going to say I'm an owner. I'm not an owner. They own me. So I'm a parent, a pet parent. I can tell you, like, one of the biggest things at our house is who's sleeping on what bed. And I'm talking about the cats and the dogs and whatever. And
How many cats and dogs do you have?
all right, I have seven.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right. And so I have three dogs we just recently adopted, or he adopted us. A dog, a Bernedoodle, big guy who had been at six houses, but he's coming along nicely. He's almost 3 years old. And we have four cats. So we have a total of seven animals living in our house. All right. So guess what? The house revolves around. Even if it was one, as Dawn down here could also tell you, even if it was one, it would be the same. But our house revolves around the animals being comfortable. And I don't mean like in a weird, oh, you have to be like a little princess kind of thing, but just in you're having a good quality of life and one of the other animals aren't picking on you kind of situation. All right. So we're in Florida. It's really hot. I have animals that love to go outside. I think most creatures, including humans, like to go outside. Just like us, they like to go outside. We actually never let them go outside. Kyle and Mimi, I know you guys are the same way, obviously without our supervision because we are concerned about their safety. But we like to sit outside. I'm in an office 10, 12 hours a day during the weekend. When I get home at night on the weekends, definitely just want to like chill outside. All right, so guess what? Some of them like to jump in the pool. We live in Florida, however, there's always like a likelihood it's going to be a little mid afternoon, morning, night, whatever shower, which we love. We call them rain, they're like sun showers, I think is what we call them sometimes. It's like the sun is shining and it comes out and it's fast and then it goes away. Great. So for years, since I was peripherally first involved with Paw.com, Colin and I, because him and his family, him and his wife like to spend a lot of time outdoors as well. We're like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be so cool if we could just have a dog bed that we could just leave outside? So it just became this big, like, quests, like what is a really like that actually dries, it doesn't mildew, and it's a little bit cool, and but it looks nice, right? Obviously, it needs to look nice. Dog bed that we could do that was outside. And I'm going to tell you, like, I know it sounds so simple and so silly, maybe for some people, but you wouldn't imagine the amount of time and the number of fabrics and just like brainstorming different ways. Like, we had all kinds of crazy ideas too. Like, we weren't trying to confine ourselves to a box per se. So finally, I, what was it? It was probably, that was probably at least, it took us a year and a half, Colin, I think, to identify the materials, and no one else was using them. And the people that we work with helping us on the manufacturing side were finally like, okay, we found this foam. Like, we don't know
Yeah,
if
do you
you'll
remember that
like it.
moment? Do you remember that
I
moment?
remember it so exactly.
Yeah, and
Like,
we pulled out this foam and they said, "Look at this interesting foam we have. It's like a 3D printed plastic
and
foam."
it was almost like, we don't think you'll like this, is what I recall.
Right. And then I look at Michelle, Michelle looks at me, and holy shit, this is it. This is what we've been looking
Yes.
for. This is going to solve the problem, right? The real problem. That's the first topic of the article, Michelle, which is it's all about the product,
And that's why I said, let's start
right?
from the beginning. And we need our backstory here
Create something truly unique, invent it. It's all about the product. And here
about the
you were
problem.
at this point, you knew this problem. Now, when you create a product, if you're not solving a problem, are you really changing anything, right? And I think this one solves a problem. Would you agree?
I totally agree. So yeah, we were like, okay, but how is this whole bedding system going to work? Because guess what? Yes, we want it to look nice, but we're very clear about in all of our products that we've been working on is like they have to be very multifunctional and very resilient. So we were like, okay, how do we make it an indoor bed? How do we make it fit all the sizes and really be an outdoor bed? And so there was a lot of thought that went into it, which obviously means a lot of prototypes. And for many of you, which I'm sure many of you have experienced and can even imagine, is like trying to do what is called a consumer goods product. You got to really think about all the use cases. So a lot went into that. And who's not
It's
here?
interesting you say that too, right,
Yeah.
Michelle? Because a lot of your e-commerce products that are successful have multiple use cases. Like they're one thing, this has the air that goes, the indoor cooling air. It doesn't get hot like traditional dog beds because there's no,
Oh,
the air
no.
is blowing underneath. And at the same time, it drains water outside. So it's an outdoor, indoor. It's like a multi-purpose. And the more purposes you can apply to an e-commerce product seems to increase the success exponentially.
Absolutely. So a lot went into that. And that actually took the most time because going back and forth, it's totally designed and conceived here in the US, specifically in Florida, more specifically in Fort Lauderdale. Is it takes a lot of time to go back and forth with the manufacturer, and our manufacturer is in China, because I'm here to tell you, like, that's the only place that you can actually produce goods currently. Hopefully that
This
changes,
type
or
of
maybe,
goods. Yeah, this type of goods, but hopefully that's
yeah.
going to change. Yeah.
I mean, things are changing, but just, we're not hiding behind that. But
Textiles is 90% of all textiles come from China, and that's a fact.
so the way I like to think of it is we dreamed it up here in the US in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and where the reality is actually coming together in Asia. But anyway, so we did that, Colin, right? And then in between every one of those, we were like testing them, getting our friends and families and just people that we know have experience in the industry to test the product. I left it out on my porch, gosh, for a long time, because that's just what it is.
So the
But
problem this one's solving, Michelle, is what? Is it the mold, the rain? When it rains on top of a waterproof dog bed, it gets moldy underneath, but all on top of that, the water just sits there for a day or so, right? So this one can dry within minutes because the water just goes through it, instantly
yeah,
dries.
but why? And not to sound like a commercial, but it's because it's really what we've been working on the marketing message. And that's what I also want to talk about here is the marketing message. Like we said, we're doing this on a Kickstarter. but the marketing messaging and style, execution, etc., is very, you really need to talk to people. And I learned a lot specifically on this one because obviously you're trying to target people that are dog owners, but even more narrow and much more narrow is these are early adopters because this product, Colin, it's a real pivot, right? Because we're using this proprietary foam. So we're not like the traditional, and we struggle with this too. And I want to hear, I see doctors in the audience. Colin, can you bring her up?
She has to come up, but yeah, sure. We'll
Oh,
ask
okay,
her to
maybe.
come up, Dr. Renishink. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is like a pivot. So we know it's better. And we're selling, always been selling things that are really aesthetically pleasing. So that the next thing, and this is only stuff that you learn as you talk through it with people, I was like, how do we tell people it's just not another pretty bed? Because it is pretty, and we always lead with pretty, quote, pretty. But increasingly, I think since you and I've been working on the company more for the last few years, is we're very clear, like we really need things that are really resilient and have multiple use cases. So that's like the challenge that we're in right now. We're managing it, Colin. We're just
Yeah, and I
talking.
think, and that's the number one in my article that we're working on here is create something unique and different. So if you think you're going to do Kickstarter and you come out with something that's a copycat for someone else, it ain't going to work. It's got to be unique. It's got to be different. And you got to think about solving a problem. And if you do all three of those things, you can see success. I know, I think you hit 50% yesterday at 2 days, Mark, Michelle.
That's right. The team
Yeah,
did.
that's pretty
Like,
cool.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
very
and I think you
cool.
put a pretty lofty goal of $20,000 there.
Yeah,
So
I
I
know. It
know
went
you
a
were
little
stressing out about
crazy.
that, right? Was that a
Yeah, I still
mistake?
am.
Was that the first mistake? Can we talk about that? That
I
when
wouldn't
you're doing a
say it.
Kickstarter, maybe don't set such a high goal. Don't let the optimism, the disease of optimism as an entrepreneur get in the way of achieving results. On Kickstarter, it seems like they don't really care as much about that goal, but care more about you achieving it. Because if you don't achieve it, you don't get paid out. But also, if you don't achieve 50%, I think within the first 24 to 48 hours, which you did a
Mhm.
pretty good job. But if you don't achieve that, then the heuristics within the engine don't kick in and you're not going to get exposure. This is some of the research that we did. So maybe the mistake made was we did we were a little too optimistic, maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but that's the initial belief. And I would say, being quite candid, is because I'm CEO, but I'm also the CMO, is one thing I was struggling with was kind of like building up the demand beforehand. I'm so very used to performance marketing where I'm measuring everything, immediate return, clicks and that. I think we could have done a better job there, and I'm not quite sure what I could have done differently still, Colin.
Do you think that though, one of the things that we learned after the fact, so this is our first campaign, right? Would you agree with that? It's definitely our
Yeah, yeah,
first.
it
And so
is.
one of the things is doing a pre-launch. When we did the
Well,
book, the
that's what
Start,
I'm
Scale, Exit,
saying.
Repeat, we spent a lot of time on the pre-launch. And I don't know we promoted the pre-launch enough on this
Well,
particular
that's
campaign.
exactly what I'm saying. I think we could have done a better job there. I think we're still struggling with what we could have done differently. I mean, timing is easy to throw out there. And I know I was like, whoa, yeah, we have to generate some demand pre. But I'm here to tell you, like, I know I didn't do a great job at that. And that's something I'd be interested to hear if anyone in the audience has suggestions on, because that's a hard one for me, because I'm very accustomed to performance marketing where it's call to action. And we're
Yeah.
very methodical in measuring it. I guess some people might call that branding. We're talking very collapsed timelines here and
Yeah.
a very high sense of urgency.
And this
You
is
know,
live. We're doing this live, guys. We're
on
doing
a
this live.
low
So
budget.
today you did another pivot. You changed the thumbnail, and
Yeah.
that's because one of the attributes of the bed is that the water flows through it, and people weren't necessarily seeing that on the thumbnail. And I'm just curious why
Yeah,
you
I
changed it.
was just because I look at all the ads and stuff, and I was hearing from the team, oh, we're not getting quite as much as engagement as we think we should. And I'm like, okay, but I'm looking at what we had, and I don't blame anybody. It's a learning process. I just said, I'm looking at what we have, and I'm just, maybe I think it's not hook. Like, I'm all about the hook, the double hook. Like, you stop the scroll. It's like, and then I was like, I said to you, Colin, when we were just brainstorming about it, I was like, shit, sorry. It's like we're trying to sell just another pretty dog bed. And I was like, I think we need to pivot. And we're still in the midst of that and asked the team to look at into doing this messaging, like just saying we're not just another pretty dog bed, like just being, you know how I am. I'm very direct. Maybe that's good, maybe it's not, but it's just like we're gonna try that other
Yes,
hook.
the direct. Yeah.
We're not just another pretty dog bed that somebody's asking you to pay $200 for. I really do believe that it's absolutely critical and important. And it could be just because of aesthetics. But for me, I think it's both aesthetics and functionality to really lend value to people. Come on. You're asking people to spend $200 of their very hard money.
Yeah. And you leaned into this one and you really did a great job of creating the page itself and the video. A lot of people might say, oh, I could just take my iPhone and film a little video, but I don't think that works. And you decided to go the opposite and hire a company. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the video itself? Seems to be the key, linchpin, like the key.
Yeah, I'm going to say it is the most important thing. And I don't know the exact statistics for Kickstarter, but I can tell you on other platforms that I've worked on, if you have a listing, and this is a listing platform, although it has a very unique, very cool business model, Kickstarter that is, if you don't have good imagery, it's like the death of you. Studies have shown that you'll get a minimum of 3x conversion, three times, 300% conversion just for having good imagery. Because guess what? We're all, I don't like, yeah, I like to think I'm reading everything on a page, but I want to see like how it looks. It's, you might say, oh, you only care about pretty things, but it's actually the way your brain works. And we are very visual people, even the most intelligent of us, which I'm sure we all are, and we read and understand. But your brain, there's a very strong cognitive reaction. It's very important to have very good pictures on your listings and all of your business and marketing assets, preferably very real. That's the other thing. If it's too polished, people's, even though they might not consciously know it, it's the hair on the back of their neck goes up. But I know this is your kind of expertise, doctor. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Hi, thank you so much. I love this conversation as always. So the visual thing, the imagery thing, yes, we are quite as humans visually salient. That's what we work off of more than any of our other senses. But visual is connected to emotional. And whenever you're talking about something new, so the brain is a change machine, it's also a prediction machine. And so it loves things. It's your number one job of the brain is to keep you safe, right? Is your survival. So to have you survive, you have to be safe. So then the importance of change becomes really a big deal. Because on the one hand, you want things to be stable and known, and you don't want change because you feel safe and you're okay. It's what you know. So you know how to live in what you know. But then there is a drive that we have for novelty. You're actually driven. Your brain is driven. It seeks out novelty. So it has to be, however, within what's known as a tolerance window. Change, but not too much. And you can imagine why we're driven to novelty, right? Because when you were back in the day, there's an evolutionary advantage. When you were exploring and you found new resources, found new sources of food or whatever, this was great. Anticipation is also, by the way, the highest reward in the brain. So being able to find something new, but not so new that you have nothing to connect it to, or being able to elicit the emotion. So it's a two-parter. One is the attention, the other is the emotion. So you want to get the attention for the new thing, but then the thing, so you can hook them, but then the thing that keeps them and converts them is the emotion. You need to satisfy an emotional need. Sorry to use the word twice. So when you have something visual, that's almost like a story. There are so many things that are connected to what you're seeing. Why do puppies and babies sell whatever it is you're selling? Why are you're selling Coke or Pepsi? I'm sorry, Pepsi commercials always have puppies and babies because puppies and babies make you feel a certain thing that you want to feel: love, safety, joy, aliveness, youth, you name it, fun, etc. So when you're looking at, it's not just any visual that's going to convert 3 times more, it's the correct visual of the story that you want, because all of that gets processed very quickly to read a line and then to whatever. But when you look at it, it's like a song or a picture. It says 1,000 words. That's your story. So it comes back to, what are you eliciting in the brain? And if something's too novel, then you have nothing to anchor it to. That's why you have these things that are ahead of their time. It has to be new and different, but not so new and different that it doesn't connect to something that is here now. So there are multiple layers here. I'm wondering where you want to go with that.
I just think of the book Ogilvy and Mather, 1984. And in that book, he wrote, there are three things in marketing that really hit. And you said two of them: babies, animals, and sex. Just don't bring them all together, obviously, right? But point is, no, but point is, like, you're hitting it right on. I don't know if you read that book or if that's where you got
No,
that
that's
from, but
actually, I got that from being a neuroscientist and being involved in this sort of thing. That's it.
right. Yeah. Now you have a better sense of it than us. And really breaking it down into that level of detail is pretty incredible, because what makes someone buy a Kickstarter or not buy a Kickstarter? And with the answer I got there was emotion. That's it. You got to evoke
Absolutely.
emotion.
Filling a need, right?
Feel a need and solve a problem, feel a need, invoke emotion. I don't know if those are three different things or maybe two different
So,
things, but the reality is there's something there that you've got to be able to do those things, and that's how you get them to convert. And I think, Michelle, with your video, you also did something pretty cool in it, which was, and Doctor, I want to get your opinion on this one too, but that you really started to tell a story about the past, and like you spent 3 years working on this project, and that it was really the people want to hear a story about where it came from, who invented it, why it was invented. The story seems to be a big part of Kickstarters. Would you agree with that, Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because even when you talk to people that work with Kickstarters, they're like, okay, do you have a bank account? And it's really about the dream and innovation. Okay. And for us, we love that, even though we're obviously a decent sized, successful company. But we try to really make that the DNA per se of the company. So the story becomes critically important. Now, this is, you know me, I'm pretty candid, but I've been the CEO for 2 years. I came in, the company was struggling. And I've only recently really tried to step into that because so much effort was spent around, let's just try to get the train back on the tracks. I love the company. I love animals. I love my animal people. I love the team. So for me, I'm like totally enjoying it. And I'm looking for getting more into the story and doing more things to help the community around us, Colin. I know I pivoted what you asked me, but to me, the story is really about this community, if I have to summarize, people that just love animals.
We're all human, right?
Yeah.
And we all love stories. We love talking to real people. AI is playing obviously a big role in our life right now, but when it comes down to it, when you have a story about a particular Kickstarter, and it's about your experience with your dogs and the water and the pool and the way they come out, or the rain in South Florida, and you talk about it and you say, "Hey, I solved this problem in South Florida," then all of a sudden, like, people connect with that. They connect with other humans because that's what we do. We're not, I know AI is out there, but we're not all going to connect with AI. We're going to connect with humans and human stories. That we're never going to be able to replace those. And they're part of the entrepreneurial journey. And every entrepreneur needs to tell their story, because when you tell your story, there's more to your product than just the product itself. Doctor, I'm curious, don't know if you have a take on that one around the story itself. Putting you on the spot
well,
there. I
yeah,
know.
no, it's fine. So the thing about, okay, let me just say one thing. if you're a good storyteller, if you're a good speaker, then the areas of your brain that are lighting up while you're going through your story. So Michelle, I'm sure there's a lot of emotion in there. There are different parts of your brain that will light up and the journey that you went through. The listener's brain will reflect that. So, in other words, that parts of your brain that are lighting up as the storyteller will light up also the listener's brain. So, for example, there were studies on that if you go back to a movie, people are watching a movie, and there's a particular part of the movie, when you talk about that to someone who's seen it, then you're going through whatever that part of the story was, their brain is going through that. So you're both having the same journey. You are on the same two ways to the journey. And the Western way, I don't know if you guys still hear me. But
We're having a little bit of feedback here. I'm not certain if that's you, Michelle,
No,
or are you
it
getting feedback
wasn't
from me?
me. I think unfortunately doctor's connection might have.
But I think what I heard, yeah, I heard there was,
Okay.
yeah, that it's, sorry, go ahead, Michelle. Yeah, go ahead.
Saying like when you're telling your story and parts of your brain light up, like it's really resonating with you to your soul, those are like you need to pay attention to that.
And the listener
And
picks up on that.
the listener, they pick up on that. I'm paraphrasing and bringing it to the next level is we really need to listen to ourselves on these things, Colin. And I think during this campaign, and I know the ones you're working on with Mimi now, like it's so important to listen to yourself.
I call that a little bit the authentic gene. I don't know if that's correct or not, and maybe it's overused. But if you are true to yourself and you're telling your story and those tonations, those moments, those things that you're so excited about, the listener picks up on that and says, "Oh, that's so exciting that Michelle's did this thing and she was creating this dog bed because of her dog was in the water all the time and she was tired of wet dog bed," whatever it is. And I think that is what resonates. And I know you're saying it's chemicals in the brain, doctor, and they connect those chemicals to their brain or whatever it is, but
no, that's not.
no, okay.
Sorry, I think it was my phone that got messed up. So what I was just saying is that there's the same parts of the brain light up in the listener as the storyteller. So the way that you can communicate is either directly, like you go to the beach and you go, oh, it was really nice and it was this temperature and the sun felt like this and the air felt like that. That's called feature abstraction, where you talk about the different features of some scene. Or you can tell it through story, where then that leaves enough room for the listener to extrapolate and then connect to their own experiences in their own life and what matters to them, how it feels. So there are two different ways to be able to impart an experience to another, to have them be inside of where you want them to be, which is your experience. And the beauty of storytelling is it has a little bit of like slop in the system, let's just say, that allows the person to really personalize it to the things that are most emotional and important and salient and memorable to them. That's why storytelling is very powerful. We are on a journey together. I feel what you feel, what I feel. We're connected. We're in this together. The word together alone. So when you're talking about organizations and people talk about teams and they want increased productivity, so they say we're on a team, that doesn't change anything. But if you say the word together and people are literally working on a project, quote unquote, together, but they're not even in the same place, they may not even see each other. They work longer, harder, and enjoy it more. It's called intrinsic motivation. And so there's something about that connection of that's also what oxytocin does, right? It makes you bond to someone who's more like you. People think of it as the love and the cuddle hormone, but what it's doing is it's pushing away those that are not like you to bond you more tightly to those that are like you. Now you have a vested interest because it's about you and your own success, your own joy, your own emotions, etc. See what I mean?
I wonder, like Shark Tank, that's one of the things that they do is they people get to know the story behind the product and that they make a special connection and that actually makes a
Well,
difference.
if you're connected to
Uh,
something, by definition, you're more interested than if you're not connected, right?
yeah, yeah. So story matters, and I think too many entrepreneurs don't realize that. They think you just launch a product on Amazon and who cares who's behind it. But
Or some of
Spanx, I
us,
think of the lady from Spanx. I'm trying to remember her name right now. We were talking about
Sarah
that.
Blakely.
Thank you, Sarah Blakely. And she has such a story behind her. And everybody got behind that story and she just took off. Like part of it. It's like that. It's part of it's the story.
It becomes personalized.
Yes.
Yeah, we are humans, right? We want to do business with the humans. What a concept!
Something
What a
that
concept in
makes
an AI world.
Hey, doctor, one thing I'm thinking about too, without getting totally geeky here, it's almost like the anatomy of a story, right? Because
Absolutely.
if
The
you were
hero's
like,
journey, right?
if you were like, oh, yeah, bitch, like I'm so rich and I can do all this. Yeah, people are not like, all right, whatever. But they really show who they are. I'm assuming most people come from humble beginnings. That's reality. I'm sorry. Like, I know there are Cinderella stories, even though I know that's a huge myth. Mimi and Kyle were telling me about the real story is like most people, like 99.9% of us, like it's a real struggle. And
And the
like,
thing is, if you can be successful in your struggle, that means I can be successful in
right.
mine because we're connected.
Yes, there, it can happen. It's, I'm not making it up in my mind. So there is almost this like back narrative about what is like the anatomy of a story. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why the hero's journey, although it's been overplayed, still resonates. It's the I started here. I'm not going to go into the hero's journey, but it's the I started here. I learned something new. I get to be that hero. There's a transformation. I'm at a new place. And
Right.
if you start to think about Jungian shadows, what are the things? So we think about the dark shadows, the parts of us that we remove. I'm not greedy. I'm not selfish. I'm not bitchy. I'm not whatever it is that you think is going to make you unlovable. But there's also the white shadows, the light shadows, the things that why do we love hero stories? Because we see
Mhm.
ourselves in them. That's the better part of
We're
ourselves.
rooting the
That's who I
underdog.
could be. I
Yeah.
root for them because that represents me. See what I mean?
A real identity, not just surface, obviously.
That's why it
All
goes
Call
right,
back to
Michelle.
both
Let
you
me
being
let
me and
me
I
give
being
you
me, right?
let me give you
yes.
practice. We're gonna jump back to the topic, right? Which is how to launch a successful Kickstarter. And 4, 5, and 6. So I got 4. We might not be able to cover it all, but the article will come out. Don't worry about that. But and by the way, this is live. We're not some theoretical Harvard professor sitting here talking to you about how to theoretically do a Kickstarter. We launched it 3
Hardly.
days ago, right? So here we
Hardly.
go.
I went to University of South Florida. Thank you.
I went to U of T. I know. All right. Build. So number 4 was build a professional page that sells. So it's all about the page, right? You spent. I just couldn't believe how much
Oh
time you spent.
gosh.
Weeks and weeks working on a page. I was getting so mad at you,
Unbelievable.
like Michelle. Just perfection's going to kill you.
Can you just read this? Oh, yeah. All right.
Is perfection going to kill you? At a certain point, you got to move on.
Yeah. My gosh. I'm really honestly at this point not even like looking at the page other than the images, the graphics, because I'm like, I could rewrite this for a year. Okay. It was so hard. It was so easy in a way, but so hard in another way. But for me, I love the process of
Images do
writing.
matter more than words on these pages.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. For
Yeah.
me, I'm like very like I actually use, okay, I think some people can identify with this. I use writing these kind of things. It's actually my process for articulating and refining in my mind what really is the value and what really matters. I take great, I'm going to say it's a love hate relationship in like refining and editing because it really, I feel like it's the only way I can force my mind, doctor, to really think about what's not bullshit. I love the editing process and I could spend a horrible amount of time on it. But for me, I always find it to be the best way to like think through things. And then I like to ask for feedback. I hate asking for feedback. I'm just going to be really honest. There's very few people I like to ask for feedback from because I have a hard time just like hearing random things that I think, oh, you didn't
We all
think
hate
through it. You're not
rejection. We
thinking
all hate
about it.
rejection. You all hate sticking your neck out
Oh,
there.
God.
You were so
There's a few
nervous,
people I
Michelle. You were
always
so
ask.
nervous about this campaign. And I'm nervous too, right? Obviously, we're business partners here, but I'm nervous as well because, like, this isn't you stick your neck out there, you sell a product, and then you can advertise it on This is you stick your neck out there if you fail, and everybody's going to know it.
Yeah, we're not going to fail. Yeah, I was begging people to buy, but nonetheless, like you getting back to what you asked.
So that's pretty
Oh,
cool.
good.
Like, you're only 9,000 away from closing this out, and you got
You're making that up, aren't you? Oh my God. I just changed the thumbnail image. Oh my God. Colin, I am not kidding. Okay, this is another thing that the four of us here, Mimi, Kyle, and myself, work on with the book and other things is really, this is like a weirdest hack I'm going to tell you guys, but it's true. You're so embedded in your listing, like thumbnail or cover. But what I find that people don't do, and is they don't do a mock up and look at it how it literally, really, literally looks in search results. Okay. I know that sounds really weird, but people tend to mimic what others are doing. We did a business book, and I said to Colin, you cannot fucking do a man standing on the top of the earth with a graph going
Oh,
up.
the arrows. Remember the arrows?
I was like, absolutely not. And we did a lot of, honestly, almost like soul searching, working with Olivia and Mimi, just like what it would really stand out. And we ended up doing something that was very different, and but we thought was very us. It was more like a minimalist, tropical Miami look. But we really felt, as you see on Colin's thing, it was those colors, the words against a white background. We felt it was really important, like ourselves, to just be very direct and very staccato. And it worked, Colin.
And Forbes leaned into it. And Kyle, I think we won, I think 3 awards of the 39 awards. 3 of them was for the cover, which is like the most basic, simple Apple style.
And
Steve
it
Jobs
was,
could have came out with the cover, right?
yeah. And you
So,
remember, yeah, we were like, okay, this is it. But we really
so
felt
that
so strong.
thumbnail, the
We
initial
had very,
impression.
Colin, I'm just going to say, let me say, we had, I'm going to say, I think they had three top book cover designers out in New York, really working for prestigious like publishing companies. And they were like giving such the opposite. And we were like, no,
Yeah, yeah,
we're doing this.
yeah. We don't want to go there. They look. They did a phenomenal job. They leaned to when they saw it. They leaned into it. The whole book
Absolutely.
became laid out as one of the look. It won 39 global awards, right, and more than any other book on entrepreneurship ever. And part of the reason was because of Forbes. But you're right. That thumbnail and our work that we looked at it and we said the power of those words made the difference for that book, and the power of the AirX foam quick dry dog bed was not a dog on a bed because everybody thinks it's the same old bed, but was the foam itself and having the water. You knew. I'm looking at it right now. It's the first time I've seen it actually. That's how fast this thing's happening. Let's not. We really don't make this shit up. It's happening as it
It
happens here,
is.
right?
We're
56% funded right now, just so you know. All right. So that you can see the water going through the foam right on the main image. And that's it. That is the game changer. It is a different product. No one's ever come out with a product like this. Instead of fighting Mother Nature, we're embracing Mother Nature.
your mother nature.
We're embracing Mother Nature. We're not fighting the rain, we're embracing it. We live in South Florida. You can't fight the rain. Wesley's come on stage. We'd love to
Hey,
hear from you,
Wesley.
Wesley. And if you have a topic or a question or a suggestion how we can make a better Kickstarter, we'd love to hear from you, Wesley.
Or maybe he's
Well,
so.
just find it interesting that you can actually get award for a book cover because I have 4 books on Amazon. That's crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
look, this team, like this book took 10 years to put to start, scale, exit, repeat.
but
It
but
was something
but
that
Colin,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, y'all look my name up on Amazon, Wesley Holly, which is all about how to move people around the planet. And I didn't even know that a book cover you could get an award for it because I designed every one.
I bet you your covers are better than the stuff I've seen out there.
Well, look it
Right,
up
I'm gonna
for
have a look at your
yourself.
books. I'm gonna have a look at your books and your book covers. But I will say that. But what we're saying is that the first impression matters. Whether it's a book, whether it's whether it's a Kickstarter whether it's anything, that first impression, that first thumbnail matters. And so the other thing we did, Wesley, Michelle was very smart about this, and Mimi was they printed out the Amazon. So most people buy from Amazon, right? So they printed out the Amazon page and they put the thumbnail of the book cover on the page And then we stand back and we say, does it stand out amongst 30 or 40 books? And it did because of its simplicity. It went the opposite way that all the other books. Maybe that's it, just being different on your book cover or your style or whatever. It's always about being different. But I'd love to look up your books there and moving people on the
Yeah,
planet.
well,
The,
I
have
want
you
to
done it?
see. Yeah, I want to see y'all's books too. I want to type it in right now and check out y'all's books covers.
Yeah, check out Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, and moving people on the planet. We've gone to China 12 or 13 times, Michelle, and I can't tell you they know how to move people on the planet. They know how to move people. I don't know if that's what your book's about or not, but the
Yeah,
Chinese,
it's about
Japanese,
moving
Americans, they don't know how to
clients.
move people.
Yeah, it's talking about moving military, tech executives. How do you move people around the planet? So I wrote 4 different books on it. They're 4 different topics. But so what is y'all's book name so I can look it up?
All right, it's Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat.
All right, let me check it out.
Start, scale, exit, repeat. All right, thank you, Wesley. And it's that first impression that can make such a difference. And I know we're at 2:44 and we got 15 minutes left and we're only halfway through the article. But Michelle, the number 5 after build a professional page that sells was pre-promote before launch, which we've already talked about how we
We
pretty
got
much
that.
messed that up, right?
Yeah, we struggled with that one.
We
I
probably should
feel.
have done this properly. Yeah.
No, we talked about it, and I know you, when I said we were supposed, we really should be doing this, we were like, okay, yeah, and we actually delayed for a week or two, but I think we still struggled with what would work in the strategy. I'm just being very candid here, because I'm like, okay, yeah, we could post and all that, but we just didn't feel, we posted a couple times and whatnot, but we didn't get, what I would have expected was a quote successful pre-launch, which obviously if you don't have that, guess what, it puts a lot more pressure on you, excuse me, on the launch.
Yeah, that first couple days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember the book, how even because it was the first time we launched a book, how the first 30 days like matters so much because you get so much more exposure and you need to be doing podcasts and you need to really build up pre-demand for your book launch for day one so that when it does hit, you're going to hit those number one spots. And ultimately, number 6 on my article here is it's understanding the momentum curve, and Kickstarter runs on psychology and visibility. Days 1 to 3 are critical. And that's why you're doing your pre-launch can release a lot of pressure. Somehow you pulled it off. You're at 56% right now and you're on day 3. So this is when you convert your warm audience to try to reach at least 30% of your funding goal. Day 4 to 25 are quieter. They tend to be not as big. And then 48 to 72 hours, the urgency's back and the countdown's on. So you can obviously build a little bit more momentum around that. But you do want to
Okay.
build momentum.
Yeah.
One of the things that we did learn from this is that you don't want to go all out all at once on the first day and then it just drops like a rock. You want to have the momentum build the second and third day and fourth day. Yeah.
I still fucking understand this. Yes.
Oh, sorry, John. Yeah, we got, I don't know, we got John coming on there, but okay, we're a live show here. If you're listening to the podcast, we get sometimes you get the feedback, sometimes we get people coming on, and it turns into gibberish, whatever it is. But it is a live show. The vast majority of people who listen to the show don't listen to it live, and you can just come on Friday at 2 o'clock and come and join us on stage and listen to us live. It's more interesting, I feel like, when you listen to it live. But understand the momentum curve. Any last thoughts on that one, Michelle, before I move on to pricing strategy?
All right, the momentum curve. Like we said, we're on lots of different platforms and we have a decent understanding of how things trend, but Kickstarter was not one that we knew of. I think that still trying to understand like how to I don't want to say hack, but I guess I'll just say it. How do we hack or play to the algorithm? We're relying on AI to tell us how that is, and we believe, like we just said, that you have to hit 50% of your goal, your financial goal that is, in the first, let's just say 2 days. So that's one thing I'd be interested if anyone on this on the stage or in the audience knows about this, has done a successful Kickstarter, because we're exploring different methods right now. And we quickly realized, as I told you yesterday, Colin, I'm like trying to pivot and get in some like Kickstarter early adopter newsletters. But I guess if I have to say anything, I guess I would say identifying who those potential buyers are. For us, we did make an assumption. Oh gosh, it's just going to be our customer base and we'll hit the goal immediately just because of that. We quickly learned that was not accurate.
Because they don't like going off platform. They're
They
used to
don't,
buying it
yeah.
on our platform. They're not used to it. What's this Kickstarter? I don't know what Kickstarter is.
And I realized that very quickly after I talked to a couple of friendlies. I was surprised. Don't assume just because you know what something is, somebody else does. To them, that's a very divergent customer experience that they're not comfortable
That's
with.
right.
Even like a couple of people I talked to that I absolutely adore and continue, and I you think of them so technical. It's just because I had, obviously, it's not technical. Obviously, it's a niche experience, Colin. So that's what I learned is pull your personas, your perspective in line with what reality is.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about pricing. So you have this thing called super early bird pricing on Kickstarter. Then you got early bird pricing, and then you got early pricing. Like to talk about like why do you have these tiers
Yeah.
of pricing to really move? It's all about the algorithm, right? Is it all about the algorithm and you want to move
Well,
as much
yeah,
as
you're
possible in the
trying,
first
you're,
24, 38,
you're
46, 48 hours, whatever?
right. It's part of your messaging out. It's not, it's obviously on platform important, but probably more importantly off platform. You're really trying to fuel, hopefully in an honest way, the urgency. And for us, we used that. We only ordered 500 units and we actually, they're almost already here, which is very different than most Kickstarters. Most people are waiting like 6 months. Everyone who orders from us now, because we had such a strong belief, we actually went and pre-invested our money. And now we're actually using this money to help get the word out, right? Because marketing is actually more expensive than the production. But we're actually, yeah, like,
It's a great guerrilla marketing tactic, isn't it? Versus Facebook.
I
Always,
was going to say, it's to
yeah.
me, I think of it also, I thought it would be more of a PR strategy, but now, right now, I'm thinking it's more of a distribution strategy, Colin, because I
Okay.
consider these very good early results for any kind of like distribution network. And I wouldn't say that I've seen per se media. I'm being very analytical, but I think it was a very smart move in terms of like acquisition of new customers and distribution.
The days of the old e-commerce company where you could just launch a product and launch it on Facebook and make $1 million is gone because costs of it Facebook are so expensive. You got to come up with innovative guerrilla marketing ideas. Kickstarter is one of them. Press release was another one. You did a press release to work with the LLMs and the AEO. Can you talk a bit about that?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, that's another thing I would just say, like, especially you're doing digital marketing or whatever, or a combination therein, make sure you're always talking to your partners and like your enablers. So talking to our PR or press release news distribution people, I learned that they had a new product that will distribute blog content, and it was like a fraction of the price. So we all know, even before AI and LLM, like people just, they're seeking information about things, they're asking questions. So just like getting your content out there is vitally important. Most people don't read press releases. So we decided also to lean in doing other content, and we're using now this new distribution network for blogs.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So, number 8, be ready to ship and be honest about delivery. Why do we be honest? Our optimism can get us in trouble here. And I know that happened with Pod.com years ago with Trustpilot when 2, 3 years ago when they said, oh, it'll be delivered by this date and it didn't come that date. It came a month or two later. and the ratings fell through the floor.
This
Can you
is
talk a little bit
something,
about that?
yeah, this is something that's really like important to me. And I tell my team all the time, we don't lie. Like, you just, if a product's not going to be here for 3 months, then you need to put it on there. It hurts your reputation a lot more to say something that's not true. And if you fail, even if you fail and you're like, yeah, it's later than thought we were being so conservative, you send emails, you offer like refunds, etc. But like for me, it's more germane to land and just being like really like we're not copying people. We're being very honest, and we do have a certain amount of ethics here. Obviously, we want people to buy things, but we're not going to do it in a way that's dishonest, Colin. I don't know how else to say it.
Yep. All right, let me take number 9. Protect your idea. Kickstarter's public. Competitors are watching very closely. So one of the things we did is we trademarked the AirX foam. We have a TM we put on side that we can file patents. We're going to file a patent for the bed itself. In the United States, here's an interesting concept. But again, please get some legal advice or some AI legal advice at least before you take my advice. But in the United States, you can typically have up to 1 year from your public launch to file a patent applications. You can get global patent rights if you file in advance in Europe and other places. But if you're short on budget, you just want to file after it's been a success, you can still do that in the United States. You can still defend it. We had a product at paw.com that was in that one of our competitors put into Costco, and we sent them a letter and we had them removed from Costco. I was pretty happy with that. It's all about protection. You got to scale your business, but you got to build that moat, right? You got to protect your business as well. And then number 10, turn Kickstarter momentum into a multi-channel launch. So Kickstarter is a proof, it's not the business, right? And what gains traction is that you don't just succeed at Kickstarter, but you take your product and then you go into multi-channel. And I know in our case, Michelle, you're talking about Wayfair, you're talking about Chewy, you're talking about Amazon, you're talking about paw.com, you're talking about you do a lot now with an affiliate program, with influencers. So if you have a success at Kickstarter and this is your first business, your first e-commerce product, there's a lot more to e-commerce beyond Kickstarter. There's a lot more. In fact, your success is based on you're going beyond Kickstarter into this multi-channel universe. Can you talk a little bit about that and close the show out, Michelle?
Oh, wow. That's a big question to answer in 2 minutes. But
It's important, isn't it? It's so
no,
important.
I would say you're very first a marketing person, and I'm very first like a product person. But it really is like really thinking about, I think doctor also said at the beginning of the hour here, is what is the problem that we're trying to solve? It's just like you really, if you're like inventing a product and marketing a product, as all of us are entrepreneurs, like really, you got to believe that what you're doing, for most of us, that's how we function. We really have to believe the story, which is a true story, hopefully, that we're solving a problem for someone. It was a problem that we solved for ourselves, and we thought it was significant enough that we needed to invest a lot of resources and ego and everything else. So for me, at the end of the day, Colin, it really is the conviction and the dedication that we have for what we're doing.
That's right. All right, you've been listening to Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, and you've had Michele Van Tilborg and Doctor and Wesley who came on there, talked about his 4 books. And that's the show that we do every Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern. And each show is actually turned into an article. And that article then becomes a front page article on Google. If you haven't already seen so, go to startup.club. You may have noticed our newsletter did not come out today. We have a big announcement that's coming out next Friday. We might move it to Thursday, by the way, because I'm on a flight next Friday. I know originally we were supposed to have a show with Doctor next Friday, but we have a big announcement coming out next week and we're very excited about it. The team's worked a year and a half on this project. Mimi, I know you've worked very hard on it, and I know Olivia worked hard on it. You've had other people work hard on it. I've worked hard on it. We've spent I don't know how many untold hours working with other companies. We on this project, and we're going to announce it probably next Thursday, and we'll do a show next Thursday. That's my thinking right now. Is we'll do a show next Thursday at 4 o'clock. But Either way, if you're listening to this in podcast, you're listening to this on YouTube, just come on Fridays, 2 o'clock Eastern. That's generally when we do our shows. I'm going to close this show out right now with, as we phase out next minute, with Michelle's favorite song from Startup Club, our theme song. I know you love it, Michelle. See, we were in crowd, voices quiet, but impact loud. We fall, we fight, we rise anew, because that's just what founders do. We are the change, the truth, the glue. We are entrepreneurs through and through. We don't just dream, we do.